Lot going on in the world, and right now, a lot of people are keeping their eyes on New Hampshire and what might be happening in that particular area. As definitely Trump trounced in the first caucus, that being the one in Iowa, and now people are trying to figure out what's going to be taking place in New Hampshire and whether Nikki Haley can actually stand a chance or not stand a chance, and all along that space. But definitely, a lot of people will be paying attention to that and seeing how that is going on and how that impacts the race and all in that way. So a number of people are paying attention to what's happening in New Hampshire and what might be going on in the world there. So we'll definitely be interested to see what's happening, and definitely there might even be some live updates as we're doing this show, since I think some of the early polls may be turning out and all in that space. But definitely it'll be interesting to see and how people react to whatever happens, and whether we're just going to get that Biden Trump match that everybody expects, or whether there will be a new player in town and Nikki Haley can pull off the upset and all along those ways. By the way, the federal appeals court lets Trump's gag order stand in the federal January 6th case. So that is something that is going on right now, and that is in the DC election case. And they're saying that that gag order can stand. So maybe he can't say as much as folks were expecting him to say, because we do know that he likes to run off about different things and all along those lines. And apparently a lot of people are glad to see, at least in the Republican camp, about this truce that is going on between Trump and DeSantis. But some people are wondering, with all of the kind of venom that they both threw at each other, if this truce can last or if it is just a temporary kind of lag that is going on, and whether they'll go back to being their kind of animosity toward each other, or maybe even DeSantis will get on the campaign trail for Trump. I know that Tim Scott's already on the campaign trail for him and is already out there stumping for him and all along those lines. And one of the things that I know we've talked about on this show, and definitely one of the founders has brought up as well, is this notion of Texas having its own rules. And definitely it looks like they lost the case with the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is allowing the removal of the U.S. Mexican border razor wire for now. And Greg Abbott vows this is not over after the Supreme Court border law. So who knows? Maybe we're going to have another version of a civil war, or maybe, as some people have jokingly said, Texas is about to secede, and all in that space. So I doubt that very seriously, but there's no telling. There's always been talk of Texas seceding or California seceding or somebody else seceding, just like there's been talk of folks coming into the landscape as well. Because I do know there are people that have talked about in the past us having Puerto Rico and others join, but I usually think of that as just talk and nothing, anything that's going to happen. But I'm going to bring in Jimmy. We've also got Nick Palveda. I think he just popped in, and of course we've got Sasha Starr and all along those lines. But hey, when you hear these kind of conversations that are going on, and in this case, it's because of the border issue and the immigration issue, do you think that in our lifetime we will ever see a state secede? I know that even, and I'm just making this because I know that he's brought it up a couple of times on the Ukrainian-Russian show and everything, that, you know, some of the properties that we used to obtain, whether it was from the French, as in Louisiana, or whether it was in with Russia and Alaska, and there are a number of other properties. I think we even got some properties like around Texas and things from Mexico, that there might ever be a time that those countries come back and want to reclaim those properties and everything. Not that I think that France really wants Louisiana, but they might want it for some reason or another. But do you think there's any possibility of any of these secessions taking place, or do you think it's more likely that we'll see somebody like DC or Puerto Rico become the 51st or the 52nd state and everything? Or are we going to lose some states at some point? Jim, your thoughts, and then if Sasha's got in there, I'd love to hear his as well.
Yeah, there's always talk, but basically what I think is that the international standards of borders have been established, and any change of those borders would have to be an international agreement, not just between necessarily between two countries. But if it's a peaceful agreement, that's one thing. But if it's over conquest, I think that's another. And as far as succession goes, there are many states that I think could succeed, and there are many states that think they could but can't. Um, and I think preservation of the United States is more important than any particular disagreement we have between one state and another, which there are plenty, and there always have been, and there always will be. Um, but I do think that DC state is a possibility. Puerto Rico, I think, is more remote, but I can see the rationale behind adding DC as another state, and um, I'm I would think that that may happen. That's more probable, I think, than Puerto Rico. I think those types of issues are complex, and whether or not we as a country have the patience and the civility to discuss them intelligently and make good rational decisions is another thing entirely.
Yeah, along those same lines, I know you brought it up on your show a couple of times, Sasha. Do you think that there is any possibility that Vladimir Putin, or that maybe the governors of, or the governing bodies of Mexico, or even the French, are going to want to reclaim the parts of the United States that were purchased in order for them to become part of the United States? Like I said, there is the famous Louisiana Purchase, and that was with the French and everything. And then, of course, there's the purchase, and we learned earlier today that it was in the millions of dollars, even at that time, of Alaska from the Russian area. And definitely there has been other purchases, including conquests around Mexico during the whole era of the 1812 war, if I'm remembering correctly. Does that sound right, Nick, and everything? But I think that was around that time and all along those lines. But do you think there's any possibility that some of these countries may come back and want to reclaim their land?
Well, Russia was paid $7 million for Alaska. So what you're going to claim that the check was NSF and therefore they're going to get back Alaska, or what is their logic? Okay, they may say that they don't feel that the U.S. is a strong country as it used to be. They're much weaker countries. Therefore, they want to ask uh, um, very politely to return Alaska for the same $7 million. And in case that U.S. will disagree with that, then they will use force to do that. But they have to declare it. So far, they haven't done it. So this is a very remote possibility. The French, what is in Louisiana? What would attract them to ask for it? I don't know.
No,
Probably.
there might be some people that like Mardi Gras, or they like certain cultures that are there. Maybe they like Cajun and Creole food and everything. So there are some aspects, because definitely Louisiana, and particularly around New Orleans, is very much of a tourism attraction. I actually, many years ago, went for a job in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I can tell you that that is very much of a kind of working class environment, and it kind of reminds me of Pittsburgh. So I don't know that you necessarily want to be getting that if you are French and everything along those lines. But I could be wrong. Maybe they like that kind of environment. But Jim, what do you think and everything? Because like I said, many years ago, it was like in the late 80s, I did have that possibility of working for a newspaper in Shreveport, Louisiana. And as I was telling somebody recently, those jobs that you don't want. So when they send you the rejection letter, you're not exactly crying about it. That's the way I felt in my 20s when I got that letter after I had visited that part of Louisiana, because I was kind of like, this is very much of a kind of not urban or rural, but definitely a very working class kind of environment, and all in that space. It was not attractive to me, like New Orleans and maybe some of the other cities could have been more attractive, but I was not finding that to be appealing to me as a youngster of that time and everything. But
Yeah.
what's your take?
Well, I think like they called it Seward's Folly, but it was a deal, and so Russia, made a deal with the United States, and so we have Alaska now, and we made a deal with the French. And so, I don't see any reason to go back on your deals. People that have a more legitimate claim to it would be like Mexico, because we took land from them, and of course the Native Americans. We took all the land from them. So I think, again, now that we have we hope to be a more civilized society, these are international matters. International borders have been outlined and approved in an international setting and agreed upon. And so if you try to use force, that is that involves international outrage, as the Russian attacks on the Ukraine. These are just and the way they've done it. It's these international has to be unified in saying that's wrong. You can't do that sort of thing. And I think they have. I think that there's general consensus that Russia is in the wrong here. And I think if any other country tries to expand their boundaries to overtake others that have been settled and internationally recognized, that is a cause for international concern and perhaps outrage.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things that I'd love to hear Nick's thoughts around this, but I do remember that there have been movements, I know definitely with Africa and even with some of the people in Asia, to do what they, not so much reparations, but to do relocating. And I know that some of those countries have actually offered money for people to come and make a living and to make their chance at a new life in some of those countries. I know that Ghana did it. I think that maybe even Liberia did it, and there might even be some Asian countries that are doing it as well. So there have been these kind of moves to get people to come back to what was considered their homeland, even though most African Americans, because of slavery, do not have an idea of which of the countries they are originally from and all along those lines. But what are your thoughts around some of our foreign governments that are making appeals for people? I want to say that even China has made appeals for people to come move to China. And I don't know that anybody necessarily wants to do that because it's a very, in some ways, repressive government and everything. But what are your thoughts around these efforts to get people to come and move to their countries and become expatriates? I mean, if you look at even the time around World War II and everything, the French did that quite well, and even appealed to some of the jazz musicians and others to come and move to France and all along those lines. And there are even some people like Josephine Baker that made their life there as well. But what are your thoughts in the 21st century of people being recruited to move to these different lands?
Oh, they do it right now in the United States. You can actually get incentivized to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, they'll give you like 10 grand. Alaska, they have Alaska Trust to give you $2,000 to $3,000 per year on oil. All you have to do is Google it, and you'll see there's certain cities, even in the United States, that will pay you to move to their city. So, and they'll do the same thing overseas, which goes back to this whole thing on college education and the New York Times horrible article on college education, because they never pointed out some of the places you can get a free college education. For example, in the state of Georgia, if you have a B average or better, you get to go to University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, all really good schools for free tuition. So why don't they advertise that? They just don't. And there are certain universities overseas you can go for free, like the University of Berlin, the University of Vienna. And there's several of them. Sud University in Paris. A U.S. citizen can go for free. And one university not only pay you to go free, they'll also pay your room and board. So why is it the New York Times, a horrible, horrible article on college education, only discussed going into debt and filling out forms to go into debt for college education? It was a really bad article, horrible article. David K. Johnson be rolling in his grave, except he's still alive.
He's still living, so I don't think he's going to roll in his grave since he's still with us and everything. But you mentioned doing the news show, and I'd love to hear you. That's why I'm glad he came here and everything. This notion of the state of education, and I know that several of you here on the show said that getting a education with music or some of these other things is not a good field to get in, and all along those lines, that these people that want to be musicians or that want to be actors or they want to be a number of other things are wasting their time, and all along those lines. We talked about that during World Edition.
No, they're not, Mark. They're wasting their time and their money. So let's just get very clear. All those people that are studying social services, political science, you're not just wasting your time, you're wasting your time and your money. Now, if somebody paid you to go get education in that area, that's a different story. But if you're paying them, you're an idiot.
No,
So
that's total nonsense. There's
What'd you
plenty
think
of
of it?
people that have those backgrounds that have really been productive citizens. So, sorry, I just have to refute that utter nonsense that you just spewed.
So I found it interesting, though, that the
When
capitalists.
I was 19 years old, I had received my bachelor's degree in political science from the University of South Florida. At that point in time in my life, I'd realized I wasted my time and my parents' money to get a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of South Florida. It's about as worth. The toilet paper I have upstairs is worth more.
Yeah, the N of one, Nick.
So I
It's
quickly
Nick's story.
went
That's
MBA.
all that matters. Not the
I
other
applied
people
for
that
the
have
MBA
majored in
program at
political
South
science
Florida
and had
because the
good
MBA
careers.
is
It's all
worth
about
something.
Nick. And
And
It's
what
all
Nick-
about Nick, but hold on a second, Jim. Hold on a second.
Do not
Dick,
spend any
hold on a
money.
second. I
Do
want
not
to hear.
spend any
I
time.
mean, you're a good
Do not
lawyer.
waste
education
your
in
time.
all
Do
sorts
not
of
waste
subjects and be a
anyone's
productive
money to go
citizen.
get those
Nick is
degrees.
spouting
Hire all
nonsense.
those
Hey,
people.
Nick and
Oh,
Jim,
just-
you're a good lawyer, but I want to hear from
And
Jacoby because definitely
all
Jacoby
these
Didn't work out for
and
Nick.
the arts and everything.
social
So,
science.
from
Millions.
Jacoby. So,
They
hold
call
on.
it social
Millions
science
of
college.
productive citizens.
I just put them out of
Bashing
business.
it just because you got a law degree, Nick. You're just spouting
The law
nonsense.
degree is
Stop
worth
it.
something, dude. Let me tell you something, Jimmy.
Hold
The
on a
law
second.
degree is worth something. You get a law degree
Stop
in
it.
the
Let
United States of
Jacoby
America,
talk. You're
Hold on. This is the ridiculousness of your argument. One, you were just complaining, why didn't they talk about the free schools they can go to?
Correct.
And then you turn to, they shouldn't do things for our society because they don't make money. Think about
That's
that.
correct.
Think about that.
What's
You're
wrong with that,
complaining
Jacoby?
that they're not showing free schools in your capitalist dream because they're trying to push people to go into debt by paying
right.
for
It's
the
horrible article.
schools that
You
charge a
got
ton
it.
of money and that the schools are making bank off of these individuals.
That's right. They're
You're
making bank off
complaining
course.
that people aren't making
Nick,
these
stop
big,
interrupting.
aren't making these big jumps into doing law and making a ton of money or all these other things, but are focused on actually helping society. So you're saying that because I caught in your rambling rant that you said that musicians waste money on school, those who do social services waste money on school. So the individuals that literally helped you wasted money on school. Therefore, what you're saying is that you should pay them money and give them the amount of money that you spent on school to help you get through, rather than complaining that they wasted money. This is what I'm hearing.
I made a mistake, Jacoby, when I stepped into the pile of dung.
You made a mistake.
It's an N of one, Nick.
Because
It's not
my
your
lawyer
story.
mentor
There's
said
millions
you should
that
get a
contradict
degree.
you,
in-
Nick.
Nick,
is
let me ask you. Let's go down the
a
list real quick.
If
Do
you are trying to
you
get a
feel
degree
that
in
those
political
individuals
science,
that help
I
help
have
people
one
out of
piece
poverty,
advice for you.
Nick,
Quit.
Nick, we get it.
Now.
So you believe
Become
that
a lawyer or
those,
you're dumb.
Get something
those
useful.
individuals that go and help battered women, for example, they do social services around battered women. You believe they wasted their lives and should not have done that. Those who go into teaching, the same individuals that taught you, you believe they wasted their time and lives.
Again, they're
So
wasting their
therefore, what
students'
you're doing, telling these individuals that they're wasting their
Yeah.
lives, you're part of the problem saying that we don't need teachers.
No,
We don't need
teachers like
individuals helping. We
Jimmy,
don't
you
need
are so
individuals
right.
helping people
that. You
with
are
battered
so
women,
right. We do not need
Alcoholics
babysitters.
Anonymous, all these social services
on,
that
man.
help our society. You're saying they are a waste of time.
That
That is
You're
what you just
got in charge. That's all I can say.
absolutely correct. Thank you, finally, for bringing it out.
I
These
am glad we
teachers
got to the
are
bottom of
aware.
that.
I'm going to intervene. I'm
Yeah,
going
go
to
ahead and
intervene
intervene.
here
Intervention.
for a minute to kind of bring this back into a political view, because I think that we're running into a problem in our future because we're going to be losing doctors at a very fast pace at the cost of education. And this is not a good problem for our society. And no one is doing anything about it. Just recently spoke with a young doctor, so to speak. She put herself through college under her own, loans and everything. And nobody explained to her, how by paying the minimum back was not covering the principal. It was just covering the interest. She's a doctor. She works hard all day. They work while they go to school as well to get their degree. And these are the people who treat you. And she goes home every day wondering, why did my payment, why did my costs go up? The end payment, the balance go up after 5 years. And she's in tears, a single parent trying to take care of 2 kids. And you think, oh, she makes a lot of money. She can't even get a loan. She can't even get a loan. So, and it's not just her. I've spoke with doctors who are still in debt. And, you guys want them to, we're not going to have doctors left in our country in 10 years. There will be not enough doctors for any of you, for any of your children, any of your needs, or any of your aging parents. There won't be enough doctors because of this problem.
Well,
And that's pathetic. So I really don't care about whether someone thinks that going to school for music is worth it or anything right now. Doctors don't feel like it's worth it. We don't need any more. Don't offense, Nick, but we don't need any more attorneys. Okay,
Kim, just add on.
want to be doctors who want to take care of things. Yeah, we need more plumbers. We need more all these other things, but we failed our children by not educating them before they got that student loan. They should have been forced to take a class on what paying that back meant before they were given a $200,000 loan. And that's where I am angry at our government, because they have indentured, slaved, good-minded people who will not cheat the system and should learn how to, like the rich men do, and get PPP loans they don't have to freaking pay back. So that's where I'm at today. My mentality over all of this crap is, who's going to make sure we have the doctors we need in 10 years?
Well, Kim, just to add on, and this is what really exacerbates the problem, which is why I had to question Nick and his crazy logic. Not only will we not have doctors, but we will not have teachers. And you can't have any profession if you do not have a teacher. So we are at a point where we're not paying teachers enough. For example, in Durham right now, there was a mishap that happened with the financial situation. Now we're having individuals that aren't the teachers themselves, but it's exacerbating the teachers' problem because they're paid they're not paid all that much. But then those individuals that are dealing with the schools, like the school buses and everybody else, they're not being paid, and they're talking about cutting their paychecks. So now we're not going to have individuals to bring people to school. On top of that, we're agitating and yelling at teachers as if and not trusting teachers. Yet we want to give teachers guns to protect kids, but we don't trust them with books. So it's just crazy.
Give them a gun, they might shoot the system. Yeah. And I want to add to that, in the universities, the head of the departments can make, $450,000 to $1 million a year, when a professor just getting a start in life is not even making $13,000 a year, teaching 3 classes, wearing themselves down and trying to work probably a second or third job. And you want these people to teach people to become something valuable in our society? We need to rethink that. And also just paying teachers in grade schools, that we need to improve that, because that is your future that you're teaching. And if you're in the government and you're saying it's okay,
I got my hand up.
Pay them barely enough. They pay them. Let me tell you how they pay them. This is the formula. Pay them just enough that they don't qualify for any social security benefits, but they can't get a loan in anything and they have to work. And I think Jim's had his hand up for
Yeah,
quite some
Jim's up next. So Jim,
Yeah.
it's your turn.
No, I totally see what Kim is saying, and I support what she's saying. The K through 12 education system really has to be structurally reformed. But also, when you're talking about the lack of doctors, it's not really a government issue. It is a government issue, but it's really a pharmaceutical and insurance company issue. You know, they are the ones that have
That's
the
a
money
problem
and
too.
control these things, and they control the politicians who make these decisions. You know, so our entire medical establishment has to be rethought and reformed. We cost more than other developed countries, other highly industrialized countries, and we provide less service. You know, and the doctors are underpaid, the nurses are overworked and underpaid. You know, this system is broken, and you know it's not enough to point fingers. You know, it's something that we have to collectively sit down and rationally look like, and to you know say that so and so's to blame or so and so is to blame. You know, that's missing the point. Collectively, we are all to blame. We've let this go on much longer than we should have. And it's because we cannot talk to each other. We don't listen to each other. And Congress is paralyzed.
No,
That's
along the
right.
same lines, let me think. Hold on a second, Kim.
Communication, Sasha.
I would like to remind everybody that in 1870, German defeated France, and General Bismarck said it was a German teacher who won this war. The Germans were so well prepared, they were so organized, and he praised the German teachers who actually won the war against France. On the other hand, I would like to tell you it's quite popular among musicians, saying that those who can play, those who can't teach, and those who cannot teach how to teach.
Well, there's some of that goes on, and definitely that's said in not just the music field, but I've heard actors that have said that, even though I know some actors that are doing quite well as teachers of that field and all along those lines. And definitely, like you said, there is a whole hierarchy in that. But speaking of music, and I definitely want to get back to the other issue that I brought up, because Kim is actually the one that brought it to my attention. But before I get to that, what is our thoughts? And I'd love to hear Jim's thoughts around this. When people are using campaign music, and then speaking of music, and then the people that are using it aren't exactly thrilled, because apparently this happened recently today, and it just came down the news. There is a group called the Smiths, and that is a very popular last name and everything. And apparently Johnny Marr, who is the leader of the group, he's a legendary guitarist and songwriter for this influential English rock band. So it's not just a band from here, but he is asking Trump to please stop using his music, because apparently they're not big fans of Mr. Trump. And Trump has made the band part of the mix, because he has a mixtape like many politicians do, and he's used the song Please Let Me Get What I Want at a rally. And Marr suggested in a post on X that he plans to take action. I never in a million years would have thought that this would come to pass. Consider this shit shut down right now, he wrote. And Marr has joined Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, the Rolling Stones, Pharrell Williams, Rihanna, and others who have all told Trump to stop using their music at rallies. So I'm thinking that they are not Trump fans, and apparently they are like, wait a minute, we don't like your policies, and we don't want you using our music. So for Nick, and I know he's a lawyer, and maybe Jim, I don't know if you've got a legal background, but I know you have friends in that space, and maybe even Sasha has some thoughts about it. What are our thoughts about these musicians that are basically like, we're not fans of yours, and why are you using our music, and you need to stop right now, because we are not fans of yours? And apparently this is the latest case with Johnny Marr of the rock band from England.
I'll let Toby take it. He's got his hand up.
I mean, I was just going to say, I agree with it. I mean, they don't want to be associated with them. So why would they allow for him to utilize their music? I mean, it's the same thing as if Trump goes to an arena that has, you know, a normal stage group of people that bring people out onto the stage, and they don't want to. No, if they don't want to be a part and be forced into doing that, they have every right to say, don't do that. We don't want to be associated with that. And then on top of that, it's a financial thing, because then Trump using it to sell whatever or sell himself, then it's, then you get into the legal side of things, and how much money can they sue him for trying to make money off of their music? So.
Well, I want to add something though. A lot of PR companies, especially for the campaigns, they buy into a music license agreement where you get batches of music rights so that you can go on your campaign and do things. TV stations buy batches of music rights. There are companies out there that you buy your licenses from. So I would think that even though the people don't want him using their music, which I would feel the same way.
Yeah, sure.
If the PR bought some of the music rights or the licenses to use it, I think that they're going to have a hard time suing them. It would be like if, Bon Jovi came to me, when I bought the batch of music and I used some of his music on our network, and he came to me and says, I don't want my music on your network. But I'm going to say, but I bought, batches of music rights that say I can. So, it's a tough battle. And it's tough to find out which company to go with to buy your licenses like that, because there's so many different prices and not everybody has everyone's songs. It's not like you can just buy a global license.
It's not all black and white, but
there is no such thing as a global license. Absolutely.
Trump could use music without buying any licenses. What is in public domains, he can use the Beethoven music and Bach and Mozart.
Wouldn't it all depend upon who owns the actual rights? Even though you loan it out to a batch of music and you make money, like if he pulls it from Spotify,
right?
Doesn't it boil back to who owns the rights to the music? Because Spotify doesn't own the rights to the song. Absolutely. They have to get the rights based on the contract.
There are licensing companies, and you go to those licensing companies and you buy rights to it, because we had to do the same thing for a couple of shows that wanted particular music. Yeah. And, I learned about this when we were working with PBS, that a lot of the producers would go buy batches of rights as opposed to just rights per song.
Do you think Trump did?
Yeah, but it might not have been Trump. It might have been his PR, and that there was a question about it during his last campaign because he was playing somebody's song, and the PR rep goes, "Yeah, but we bought the license rights to it through this program," and if they did, then they did, and
that's right.
Unfortunately, but if I was Trump and there were celebrities saying, "I don't want you playing my song," I wouldn't play it. Yeah, why promote them? And and they take it as an insult. So in my mind, if I were as big as Trump, I go, fine. There are other people out there who would want me to play their song, except for Taylor Swift. I'm sure she wouldn't. But
he played kid racist rock all the time.
Yeah, exactly. He's a kid rock fan and all that. But really quickly, by the way, I was going to give an update because I did get an update right now. Right now, it is very early. There's still about 1,215 needed to win. But at the early tolls, Donald Trump has got 20. Nikki Haley has got 8. Ron DeSantis, who has dropped out, has got 9. Vivek Ramaswamy, who has dropped out as well, has 3. Asa Hutchinson has 0. And Chris Christie has 0. So right now, Donald Trump is winning. It is a slim lead. Nikki Haley is actually heading toward a third place finish to DeSantis like she did in Iowa. But like I said, it is early and we haven't got to a number of the cities and even counties there in New Hampshire. But in the early results, it is right now a Trump lead and all in that space. So just wanted to let folks know that are watching that is the current update as they are hitting and facing off in definitely New Hampshire. A lot of people are thinking that even if she loses this, Nikki Haley will be having a make it or break it situation with Super Tuesday, which I believe is next month, if I remember correctly, where South Carolina is involved in that and a number of other places, but definitely her home state of South Carolina is involved and all along those lines. So that may be the make or break one for her. Otherwise, like I said earlier, we might be heading to the Trump Biden rematch. Kim, before you came on, and you're the one that brought it to my attention weeks ago and everything, and I know that you jokingly said that maybe they're doing it and you've got ties to this particular state and everything. And I was asking the question because They did lose the Supreme Court decision. They did say that the federal marshals can go in there and cut the razor and all in that space. So I was asking the question whether Texas will secede and whether other states may follow suit at some point. But as one here on the network who has got some family ties to that area, do you think there's any danger that Texas will ever secede? And if so, how will they secede? Because there might be some people that are even upset right now, even though we know Abbott has also sent people to the Northeast and all in that way. But you've got some ties to that particular area, and you're the one that brought this notion of them clashing with each other to my attention. And like I said, the Supreme Court surprisingly made a 5-4 decision, because I think two of the conservative judges actually went with the liberals, and that's how they got to the 5-4 decision and everything. But what's your take on this?
Oh, the 5-4 decision to do
And
what?
To allow the federal agents to cut that wire, because I know you have been the one that was telling me.
So I think that no state should military should supersede a federal military. Unless you can prove that the federal military is corrupt and trying to harm a person. But in this case, the federal government just wanted to help people. And I think that Texas has the wrong attitude. They always have had. We're better and more, valuable than anyone else in this country, and you can't tell us what to do attitude. During COVID, we saw a lot of it. I think they need to, be told that if, one, they belong to the United States, they need to behave like it. And we need to unite. We don't need to sit here and go, you can't tell us what to do. But moreover, no military should stand down another country's military, the same country. And what would have happened if the federal government said, screw you, I'm walking past this wire and I'm going to go save those people. Screw you, I'm going to go do it. Were they going to shoot them? Because they had guns out. They both had guns out. So what was going to happen if one person had the moral value, courage inside of them to cross that wire? And so good for the federal judges, the state government in Texas, all holier than thou, Mr. Pro-lifers, they'll stand there and watch life die. They need to go back to church, get on their knees, and pray to their pro-life God for forgiveness, as far as I'm concerned. Well, okay, so people wonder why I'm so mad over, three people that died. And actually, the news misprinted this from the very beginning. There were 6 people spotted by the federal government. 6, I quote 6. And we read about it, 2 children and a mother died. Okay. And I was like, well, what about the other 3 people? Well, nobody ever mentioned the other 3 people. Well, they pulled one man out and arrested him, and the other man had to go to EMS for a near drowning problem. So what happened to the 6th person? People do the math. But what people forget, or it wasn't really publicized enough, was back in October, there was a mass death of, to me, refugees. These are people trying to get out of a situation. They're not migrants. They use the word migrants for a reason, for a political reason. If this is a political show, you want the political purpose of this. This was a political reason why they used the word migrant. These people are refugees, and the people who are being raped are the women that are over there, and they're seeking safe haven over here. So there was such a mass death, drowning, crossing at Eagle Pass. They didn't even count them. They couldn't even count them. And, again, Texas was not doing their due diligence. And so the federal government has been watching certain points of the river to make sure, that people, they can intervene. What happens is Texas turns a deaf ear and a blind eye to the situation. And all I got to say is, you pro-lifers, I don't understand why you have so much pro-life in you when you sit there and you watch people die in front of you, babies die in front of you, people seeking refugee for safe haven. You call yourself military, you're cowards. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to Texas and I will say it to your freaking face, Abbott. You're a freaking coward. I hope I get that opportunity. I
Yeah,
do.
hopefully
Because
you'll get that
anybody
opportunity and everything.
woman to have a baby and then you sit here and you watch people and promote them and even say you want to shoot them. What kind of pro-lifer are you?
Yeah.
I
But
hope
I had a quick question for Sasha and everything, since we are the political show, and there is a thing that one of his shows talks about all the time. And speaking of Trump and speaking of the migrants, he came out with something new and improved and everything. Because I know that on your show, Sasha, there's oftentimes this conversation that Jonathan Lockhart brings out around Europe and all that's going on there. And he talks about that Iron Dome. You know, he brings it up quite often, the Iron Dome and the Iron Dome over parts of the world and everything. And apparently our favorite person, Trump, has said that he wants to put out a Iron Dome literally over the United States. So this is only a minute. Let's hear how he's going to pull this off. But he wants to do an Iron Dome literally over the entire United States.
And Mexico will pay for it.
Hold on a second. We might not have any volume. Let's see if I can get the volume up.
Just to point out,
many years ago, but at that time there was no technology. It was just like it looked good. But we have unbelievable technology. We shoot them down. I've seen so many things. I've seen shots that you wouldn't even believe. Missile launched. They go missile launched, and you hear a bell go. I mean, I see this. It's so incredible. And these guys, these geniuses, they go. These are not muscle guys here. They're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. They've only got 17 seconds to figure this whole thing out, right? Boom. Okay. Missile launch. Pshing, boom. It's the most and we don't have it here, but we help other countries in having it. No, we're going to have the greatest Iron Dome. Let's call it Iron Dome. Anywhere in the world. And it's going to be manufactured, a lot of it right here in New Hampshire, actually. Come to think of it.
So he's going to build an Iron Dome over the entire United States. That's what he basically said and everything. So what is y'all's thoughts around this? Because he's going to put an Iron Dome over all 50 states. It seems to me that would be next to impossible, but apparently Mr. Trump thinks it is going to be possible because he's going to build everything from the East Coast all the way over to the West Coast. So there's going to be an Iron Dome, a big bubble over you, Jim Eade, and everything. So what do you think about this notion that he's going to build an Iron Dome, kind of like that wall, but it's going to be over the entire United States, from Alaska to Cape Cod? So it's going to be over the entire United States, according to former President Trump. So it's going to be a big Iron Dome because we have the technology. We can do it, to borrow from the Star Trek lines and all along those lines. So he said we're going to build this Iron Dome over the entire United States. So anybody got any thoughts about this and how this is going to be possible?
I'm going to let Sasha take this one.
Mark, you just heard the pathetic speech of a 13 years old idiot, really. That's all what there is to it. And shame on all this. His electorate, 80% of his electorate, so-called base, they are very low educated people. Most of them have no college education, and some of them don't even have a high school education. That's his base. That's people who want him to be a president. And this is catastrophic, really, for the United States and maybe even Europe and many other countries. But we'll see. I'm really hopeful that independence will see through. And now I've already seen that there is a very interesting movement. There is a new law firm has been organized headed by William Barr, and they have several former Trump lawyers, Cipollone, one of them, and Philbin, and many others, because obviously they will be testifying in a trial on January 6th, and they want to have all supporting documentation and helping each other to go through this proceedings. So if Trump thinks that it's a joke, I don't think so. It's not.
Not a joke at all. Hey, Jacoby, you're in the gaming space and everything, so we know there's a lot of AI and technology. So we're going to be able to get to this great little super dome that's going to go over the entire United States. If we watch science fiction, you would think that that's possible, but that's science fiction, and I'm thinking about reality here. So we are in the notion, since you're in that technology lane and everything.
Just to point out, this is the same man who said he wanted to put alligators in a moat around the U.S. He also wanted to electrify the fence and put that up. The man is nuts. He is literally nuts. But he's
The cracked nut.
vote getter of the Republican Party, and that's what they want. They want all he says is just random crazy things, and they love him. Oh, we're gonna put an Iron Dome. How is that stop it? How is that gonna deal with immigration? What, you're launching missiles at the migrants now? That's what your plan is, to launch missiles? Are they on missiles coming into the U.S.?
No, Chatovi. Iron Dome is to defend United States against Canada and Mexico.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is why we need.
I mean,
You're
but
in
that
imminent
makes no
danger of
sense.
attack.
It's just dumb.
If you're not embarrassed by that, by that performance, which is not one of his most embarrassing ones, he's had more that are more disgraceful. But I recommend that you get a degree in political science, because then you could think about what he's saying and realize that the guy has no clue. Let the
Gee,
military defend the country and
He's
keep
got
Donald
his
Trump out of it.
degree. He's got his degree from Trump University.
But
They
remember,
don't
though,
really exist.
now remember, his followers say that they love him because he means what he says, and he's an honest, straight
And he
shooter.
tells it like it is.
Yeah, tell it like it is. But I've got to
You're trying to
translate
flex
everything that he
country.
says.
Tells it
Well,
like
but hold on.
it
It's like,
is.
speaking of him saying what he says and all along those lines, I have heard, and some people have said it, and I have heard it mentioned, but I've got two true chess masters on here. But I've heard some people that have said that if he wanted to, Donald Trump has said that he plays chess and that he could be an actual chess pro and all along those lines.
Oh, yeah.
I've got Sasha and Jim Heed here and all along that line. And I noticed y'all actually played the game and played it pretty regularly and competitively. So I'll start with you because I've heard your answer, Sasha. But Jim, do you think that he could actually do anything with you? You wrote the book Chess for Dummies, so some people say he is a dummy. So could he actually learn from you, and could he play the game strong enough to actually go against some significant competition, or is he a lost cause in the game of chess?
Oh, he doesn't have the discipline, the ability to concentrate. I do not need sight of the board to play a game against him and win. There's no question about his inability to become a strong chess player. There's none of his characteristic traits would lead me to believe that he's capable of being that focused. But what he could do is pay the governing organizations to give him the title. It's been done.
It could be.
I have a question for you guys. You see, they're giving away free Trump.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me
The three knives.
show you,
We're
free
loading
Trump
it up.
knives. All right.
Oh God.
So is this so if he loses, they have a weapon that they can charge the White House with? Or
Yeah.
is this so if he wins, they can kill all the people and take down all the people who go against him? What's up with the knife? I'm just wondering. I mean, most
certainly disguised.
politicians, when they're campaigning, they give out buttons. They give out maybe coffee mugs, ball caps,
Yeah, sure.
a knife.
Yeah.
That's for when the people want to protect the border. They're going to ride the alligators and jump over the electric fences so they can
throw the
protect.
knives at the missiles coming at us from Canada.
Was the first thing I literally envisioned was this is for when he loses. He loses. Everyone is barging the White House on Inauguration Day with their knife going, y'all cheated. Or if he wins, and how he's threatening anyone who's been up against anyone who votes against me, we're going to take you down. And I heard this on Glenn Beck's show too. Like they were talking about it on Glenn Beck's show. You got to be a complete idiot to not vote for Trump. If you're a Republican, just because you don't like him, you're going to cause us to lose the race. If you don't vote for Trump, you're an idiot. And I'm like, yeah. That's what they do. They put fear, but they're going to take you down. And that's what he keeps saying. We're going to take anyone down who's opposed us. We're going to take you down. And I go, what kind of message is that sending people?
That's what they do in totalitarian regimes. If you're the opposition, and you can be jailed or eliminated some way. Right. And this is what Donald Trump admires Putin. He admires Kim of North Korea. He admires dictators. He wants to be president for life, and he wants to be able to jail his opponents or eliminate them in some way, some more despicable than others. But there's no question that the guy is a threat not only to democracy, but to civilization. And I think that there would be a breakdown in international relations. Ukraine would be wiped off the map because Trump would not only try to gut NATO, but he would support Putin. And, if Kim goes after South Korea, he would be on the North Korean side. This guy is very, very dangerous, not just to the Americans, not just to our democracy, but to the world order. This is a very dangerous man.
Just to tag on to everything you said, Jim, because you're spot on with that. There was a report that other countries are already trying to have backup plans if Trump goes ahead and wins. You have the different NATO, and our NATO allies are a little afraid because if Trump wins, just as he said, NATO is going to get dissolved. So therefore, Ukraine is going to get taken over. Poland and all the places over there are just going to get destroyed because NATO is gone. There's nobody to protect them. Then the scariest thing, because I saw an interview, it was talking about based on what he had said, talking about the assassination. Well, the assassination attempt, he could kill anybody he wanted, and he should have full immunity, and so on and so forth. Well, according to, and I think it was in Mitt Romney's book that they did an interview about, well, when they were going through the impeachment, and how everybody said that the courts should decide, many of the actual individuals who voted against the impeachment were under threat because they figured that the courts would decide, and they did not want to have to choose because they knew they were under an actual mortal threat their families themselves.
Absolutely.
So a way that they were going to push it is, okay, I don't have to make this decision. I'm going to push it over here to the courts. Well, then what's going on in the courts right now? You see all the intimidation tactics that he's putting on, and all the things that are happening. Okay. And so it's just a matter that it is scary to think that an individual who literally said that he wants total immunity as president and would be willing to kill. You saw the report that what's his name, his buddy, who actually was caught on tape talking about assassinating Nadler or some other Democrat high up, because we have to show them.
Well, don't forget, even before 2016, before he got elected, he said he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and he wouldn't lose any votes. And this is the electorate, the base that he has. Now, I still think it's only about 1/3 of the country that's just, nuts and would vote for him no matter what he did. But I do think that there's still hope that the independents, and I hope they turn out in New Hampshire and support Nikki Haley. I wouldn't personally vote for Nikki Haley, but she's at least a normal Republican from back in the days that I grew up with, normal Republicans. What the party has become now under Trump's leadership, quasi-leadership, it is just unrecognizable, and it has no part in a democracy. I hope that they get tired of losing, and I certainly hope that it happens sooner rather than later, and they start electing normal, well-intentioned Republicans again, where fear and intimidation is not the way that you get votes.
Well, they spread fear. They definitely spread fear. Yes, Sasha.
I think the best scenario for United States would be if indeed Trump will be nominee, and there will be an election between Biden and Trump will lose it, like almost in every state. It will be a landslide, and that will be the end of Trumpism, and the Republican Party will rebuild itself.
I hope so.
Once they get rid of Trump.
I would
That-
like to agree with you on that. I always listen to the people I disagree with on the radio, mainly so I can kind of keep up with what they're doing, right? So Glenn Beck, who just irritates the bejeebies out of me, he was, pushing all of this, Trump, you got to be a complete idiot if you don't. But one of the things he said, and I was trying to get on the radio just so I can go, gotcha. He sat there and he was saying, Trump, he's won everywhere. Oh my God, except with the exception of the small college towns and the university sectors and where majority of the youth are. He's not winning those places. And I wanted to call in and Nikki is nailing those places. And so I wanted to call in and go, Glenn, can you repeat that again? And then I would go, so what you're trying to say is that the places with higher education, a little more intelligence, and where there's youth that are more interested in their future, those are the places that are voting for Nikki, and the rest of the country is. And try to get them to realize what they're saying and promoting out of Trump is nothing but trash.
Yeah, and one of the things I took away from the Iowa caucuses, Iowa is not reflective of the country. It's overwhelmingly.
It's not.
White, and they were mostly evangelical thinkers. So over 60% of them said that they would vote for Trump even if he was convicted of a felony, and over 60% of them said they were in support of a federal ban on abortion. So we see where these people are coming from. They're often single voter issues like abortion, and they want it banned. But
And 100% of them would want to shoot a migrant as they're crossing the border.
Absolutely. And so there is a percentage of them, and they show out in the Republican Party in Iowa to give him over 50% of the vote, not a landslide victory, but over 50% of the vote. But I don't think that they're representative of the country at large. The thing that you saw a red state like Kansas put it into their state constitution that there is support for abortion, for pro-choice. And, I think one of the things that they're underestimating is that this issue is resonating with women, suburban women who have historically been Republican strongholds, are now not voting for people who are going to say, I support a federal ban on abortion. So, I think the thing that I would tell Biden is just keep repeating that. Do you want a ban on abortion? Do you want a ban on abortion? Talk about that, because that is where the people that might joke, they would almost certainly vote for a Nikki Haley type of a Republican, but they would never vote for a Trump person.
No, and I want to add something to something you said just a few minutes ago about the democracy, that they've just really lost their whole mindset about, the Republicans. I used to be a Republican, but they've just lost their whole mindset about a true democratic democracy system. And they've become purely hypocritical, right? Instead of democracy, they're hypocrisy, if you ask me. They went from democracy to hypocrisy this year completely. I thought that previously when they elected Trump, but I see it 100% now. They don't want anyone else to have any ideas or any of their ways. They want a complete religious-based country. They don't want a country with the values based on just humanity. They want it based on their Christianity.
And they think
think of how crazy this is. And just to touch on what you just talked about, they fought against Sharia law. And what is that? The same thing that they're essentially asking for, a religious-based government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they still are pushing against it with the temples that they want to build in other places, and they've been fighting having some of the temples put into place. And that's not what this country was based on. We were based on the freedom of religion, not the freedom of Christianity telling you.
So you could follow any religion that you cared to, but they didn't want a theocracy. And that's
definitely get one of the theocracy. But one of the things I was going to say, and I know we've only got about a minute to go and everything, we can talk about that on Thursday, is there has been a rise, and there was actually a Sanford study that talked about it around populism and all along those lines. So there is a populist movement that is going on, and a lot of people are saying that people are literally voting against their own interests. And that has been a conversation I've heard even people bringing up with women that might be voting against their own interests. And there is definitely a flock of people that are going toward right-wing parties, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And the populist movement can either be right or left-leaning, but they're saying that a lot of the working class voters in the U.S. have flocked to right-wing parties, even though they are voting against their own economic issues, because they are feeling that those parties are aligned with certain cultural norms that they back and all along those lines. Because I've had a number of people that have asked why certain women in certain demographics are voting against what is plainly their own interest and all in that space, but they are seeing that they are culturally aligned one way or another. So like I said, this populist movement and this movement toward this kind of attitude, because it's not just here in the United States. I think we saw with Brexit in Europe and a number of other countries, is something that has been reported on globally. They say that even global populism is on the rise. And one of those fine folks in your neck of the woods, Jim Sanford, has done a study about it. So maybe we'll get some more details, and who knows, maybe I can reach out to some of these folks and see if we can get them on the show and get them to come up and all in that space.
Nikki Haley.
Back on Thursday, and we'll
Nikki
see what's
Haley.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. And thank you everyone for watching us. Don't forget to go to our store and support us by buying some of our books or merchandise. We'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Thursday. Oh, we're all right. We'll see you Thursday. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.